家帰りたい。置いてかれたらアーニャ涙出る。
そうか。じゃあ帰ろう。病める時も悲しみの時もどんな困難が訪れようとも。
アーニャ強くてかっこいい母好き。
Spy Family is one of the most endearing stories currently airing in manga and anime, but that's not really saying anything new. If you search up Lloyd, Yor, or Anya, you will find tens of thousands of social media posts, articles, and videos extolling their virtues and wonderful family dynamic. But what is saying something, however, is my new claim right here. Spy Family is in part a great story because of how it flips the found family trope on its head. Hi there everyone, Lars here from Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And I am back with my little mini-series about what makes Spy Family just such a great story. Now, we need to first establish what the heck the found family trope even is, and this is important because of how it has been evolving in recent media. The found family trope is when characters come together and act in the function of a family, though they are not related by blood. This relationship is usually instigated by the demands of the plot, such as thieves working together to pull off a heist, soldiers in the military or at war, kids off at school, slaves looking to escape, survivors of a great disaster, heroes looking for revenge against the big villain. And despite all their differences, they come together and form a strong bond comparable to a traditional family's, which empowers them to meet the plot head on. However, there have been some changes to the found family trope as of late, and it has been argued by some that this goes for Spy Family, namely that a traditional family is replaced by a stronger family of friends who don't carry the baggage of being born into a traditional family that you didn't ask for. The current season of Critical Role has its characters championing this idea to some really bizarre extremes in my opinion, and the Fast and Furious franchise has been a massive proponent of the new found family trope, where Dominic Toretto is able to defeat all of his own familial problems thanks to his found family. Because, as you know,
there's always room for family. Salute me, familia. Turn your back on family. What's real is family.
The thing is that the found family trope you'll find these days is based more on validating estranged characters, rejecting social norms, and often it has this odd revenge flavor to it, as characters are seeking to stick it to their past and to their families by proving themselves more compatible with others. This contrasts to the narrative dynamics of a regular family in older stories, where they have to work to maintain and better a relationship that they were born into. There's a whole discussion to be had about why we see more found family relationships portrayed in fiction these days as opposed to traditional families, but that's not what this video is about. Again, I have come here to discuss how the series has flipped the found family trope, and when we look at it, there's so many people out there who argue that Spy Family uses this trope perfectly by rejecting traditional family values to create a family of strangers that is so full of wholesomeness, goodness, sweetness, and unconditional love. What the heck? I honestly wonder if these people hear themselves. Are we even reading or watching the same story here? Spy Family flips the found family trope on its head by taking a scenario where a spy, an assassin, and an orphan telepathic girl and a dog experimented on by the government come together to form a family out of necessity. However, they immediately put on the guise of a traditional family, and throughout the entire story, they do their best to live up to that ideal. And they do such a good job that, in fact, as far as Anya's concerned, Lloyd and Yor are her real parents. And as we shall see, Lloyd and Yor conduct themselves as if they were the legitimate parents to Anya. Now, I know some people are going to interject and say, but Lars, that's because Lloyd is so dense he believes that Operation Strix's success hinges entirely on how well they look and act the part of a traditional family. And Yor is so scared of being caught in a lie that she devotes herself entirely to that role of wife and mother. Fair point, dear viewers, and you have been paying attention to the story, so very good. But let's take a closer look at both the manga and anime to see how, despite their fake relationship, this found family has become a traditional family in everything but blood, which runs entirely counter to the very core essence of the found family trope, and especially of what has become today. And that is the key to the wholesomeness, fluffiness, and goodness that makes Spy Family so endearing and relatable to many of its audience. In my previous video looking at how the world building and real events of the Cold War incorporated into the story give Spy Family its wholesomeness against the backdrop of so much social and global terror, I pointed out that Ostania replicates the actions of communist Europe, where anyone who doesn't conform to traditional values is in danger. This means that Lloyd and Yor have every incentive to make sure that the Forger family is as normal as possible. This means that Lloyd has to be a strong husband and leading father, with a respectable job that provides, while Yor takes care of the household and Anya is a dutiful daughter. The thing is that this facade is totally bought into by Anya. She doesn't want to be abandoned again, and she wants the thrill of living with a spy and assassin who don't know about the other's professions, and she genuinely wants to be loved. And let's not forget that she wants to help save the world, because that's what a hero does. So honestly, when we look at it, Anya is just a really relatable child in this respect. She's not anything special other than her powers and her situation, which is a key aspect of building up a traditional family. She also treats Lloyd as a father almost from the very beginning, but really it's when he comes back to save her after she's been kidnapped that she accepts him with a child's honesty and adoration. Despite having mind-reading powers, Anya is still just a young child and acts like it throughout the entire story. Her quick acceptance and love for Twilight, or Lloyd, has a subconscious effect on him, where his act to be a proper father starts transforming him into a real father. In acting, there is a warning that every method actor should not lose themselves to their characters, and Agent Twilight has always been able to divorce himself from any role at the drop of a hat. However, Anya's love and devotion to him tip the scales and begin this act that he himself doesn't truly understand, where he is subconsciously acting more and more like a proper father and later on like a proper husband would. And as for Yor, she is desperate to fit in and not be discovered as a spinster assassin. And no, not someone who kills spinsters, but a spinster with a fantastic kill count. Now that's the kind of lady I'd like to meet. Just like Twilight, she dedicates herself to her role despite being a terrible cook, and she's pretty naive on top of it. And because Lloyd and Anya provide the complete family that she lost during the war, Yor is shocked to become so attached to them. Much of her character arc is not so much about balancing her secret life with her family life, though that does play a role, but learning what it really means to be part of a complete family and holding on to this precious thing that she thought that she would never have again. So to help illustrate my point further and show how these characters go from this oddball bunch into becoming a proper family, I'm going to look at some select moments from the manga and anime that show how they transition from found family into a traditional nuclear family. And there are so many instances that we can dive into that this video could take hours, and we don't really have the time for that, so just look at some highlights right here. First off, I love how Lloyd and Yor protect Anya during her school interview to enter into Eden College. Agent Twilight goes against what Operation Strix has commanded him to do and against his instincts as a spy, and then brings attention to himself by standing up to the teachers, by calling them out on their BS, by punching a table. Even though none of this is really going to help Anya get into Eden College, He does it because, on some fundamental level that he himself doesn't fully understand, as he's gotten into this role of being a father, he's acting like any good father would, and being like, that's not okay to tear into my daughter because of what happened to her biological mother. And it's not okay for you to call out the relationship with her stepmother the way that you have. That is despicable of you. And if this is the way that you're going to conduct yourself at your school, I do not want any of that rubbing off on my daughter. Thank you very much. We're going to go somewhere else. Boom. That is a great moment for a father right there, and for Yor herself, as she's thinking about, what am I going to do to these people? She's trying to not murder them herself because of how they're treating her daughter. And yes, she barely knows Anya, but there's this motherly instinct to her that where she's like, this is not okay. And then progressing pretty far into the story, we then have when Lloyd finally confronts Donovan Desmond in this really tense standoff. And the neat thing about this tense standoff is that there is a moment of levity when Lloyd is talking about Anya. And he begins to realize, there are times where I have no clue what's happening with my daughter, but I find that if I'm able to speak things out with her, we can come to a middle ground. And maybe that's where peace is at. And as far as Donovan's concerned, there really is no such thing as middle ground. There is no way to really understand anyone else. There's only power and control. And what Lloyd's realization is in that moment actually builds up the old adage that as far as the family goes, so goes the nation. A family, a true family, functions because of the communication that they have with each other, that they seek out a middle ground, even from parent to child. And if parents and children can work that out, if they can develop good communication skills, there can be peace and understanding in the home, just as there can be peace and understanding within a country, between individuals, between nations, if you work to cultivate a healthy relationship. And that's something that a nuclear family in many ways teaches more than a found family, especially the current trend of found family tropes, where it's more about the validation rather than actually earning that respect and communication. Another really great moment, even though it might seem more like this is just Yor's character arc, it's another great moment of nuclear family living where Yor wants to practice how to be a better cook. Her cooking makes Lloyd and Anya and Bond absolutely sick. And the only reason why Yuri can even stomach it is because this guy is an absolute fanatic and has lived with horrible cooking his entire life long. But Yor realizes that she's not a good cook and she wants to be in that role of mother. This is something that she did while growing up, and it's something that she's come to realize, I really do like this, and I want to be more of a help to Lloyd. I want to be more of a help to Anya. I actually want to be a mother. And so she goes for one of those things that she realizes this is an obvious deficiency for her, and it's something that any good mom, she believes, should be able to do, is to cook. And it's incredible the lengths to which she goes through in order to become a better cook, even though she only improves just incrementally, and it also shows a great amount of love and respect on the part of the others in the family that they are willing to try out her food, even though they know or are pretty certain it's going to kill them. And speaking of improving oneself, let's have a look at Anya and her many efforts to support her parents. Not only does she constantly help them out in her own little ways on their various missions, and there's some great stuff coming up later on in the anime. If we just look at Yor's mission in the manga, oh boy, I'm so excited for that. But it goes even beyond that right there. Anya, for instance, hates homework. She absolutely does, and it's part of her conditioning because back when she was just a government experiment, they were constantly taking her away from playtime and forcing her to do various projects and research and tests. She does not want to do any more homework, but for the sake of her father's peace and for the peace of the world, she is going to try to do her homework no matter how hard it is. And this is something that we just love about looking at Anya, is that she's a character who is constantly confronting things that she doesn't like and trying to overcome them, trying to be a good friend, trying to be a good daughter, trying to be a good student, even though she so often fails at them, like any 5 to 6 year old would actually do in real life. And this just helps to cement the fact that, again, this is way more of a nuclear family, way more of a traditional family than what you would find in any found family story. And then there's one moment in the manga that I find really poignant. It's only a couple of frames, but it's a really, really neat one. When the family's all out on a cruise and Yor's on a mission to protect people from a bunch of assassins, well, Lloyd and Anya are out to have this really fancy dinner on the cruise. Yor's not there because she's on her mission, and they realize how lonely they feel. They feel incomplete without her being there. And it just goes to show that they are indeed becoming a family. And one of the aspects of a found family is, well, because you're strangers and friends who have come together to form a familial unit, you can break away and come back together, break away and come back together, because it is those bonds of friendship that go beyond blood right here. And so you're given way more freedom. That's one of the things that a lot of people like within a found family story, is that there's way more freedom for the characters to kind of do their various things. And it's just those bonds that bring them back together to be that great found family. Within more traditional family stories, you actually see this a whole lot more, and it's something that is incredibly relatable. How, even though you might not always get along with your family, the times that you spend together, the good times that you spend together, make you realize just how much you miss and need these people in your life. And then in that same mission, Yor realizes that towards the end, she has the chance to retire. She doesn't need to be an assassin anymore. She already has plenty of money. Lloyd makes plenty of money. And so it's not a matter of the money. And there's so many things that she needs to do as a mother. So why then does she decide to be an assassin? Well, it's because she now, with her family, with this new family, she has a reason to continue bloodying her hands, even if it means potentially losing her life, because if she can make the world a better place for the people that she loves, then risking herself is absolutely worth it. And it's a beautiful moment in the manga, and it's something I'm really looking forward to in the anime, to show just how far Yor has come in her way of thinking, and just how much Lloyd and Anya now mean to her. That as far as Yor's concerned, this is no longer a found family. This is no longer a relationship of convenience. This is, for her, her family. And then there's another moment with Yor. It's interesting. Like I said, with Yor, you really get to see that her story is about realizing what it means to be in a family and protecting that. And so I think it's really interesting to see that a lot of the great family moments actually come with Yor's character arc. But there's another really great one where Yor is with Mrs. Desmond and with all of her friends, and they're just talking about their families and everything, and Yor is like, well, my family's kind of weird, I don't always fully understand them, we've got communication issues, and the other women are all like, dear, that happens all the time. I don't understand my children half the time. I got problems with my husband half the time. That is normal. And Yor's like, wait a second, a dysfunctional family is normal? And that's true. I think that's one of the big things that people just, for whatever reason, can't get over, is that every family has a weird side to them. Every family has its own dysfunctional moments. There's no such thing as a normal family. And so as such, we don't actually really need the found family trope to replace the traditional family, because the traditional family's got so much baggage and is so weird, which is an argument I have seen people make quite often, why that should be purported more within fictional stories. Well, the fact of the matter is that if you have a story like Spy Family that admits, hey, every family is weird, it again comes down to the communication and what you do for each other that really strengthens your bonds. Well, then at that point you're like, oh, so a real family, it is in many ways like a found family. What makes a found family trope unique then is that it is these strangers who come together to form a familial bond. It's interesting again just to see how the trope has evolved over time, and it takes something like Spy Family to remind us what the found family trope originally was, and that the traditional family trope is really kind of just the same thing. It's just blood relations. And again, it's all about learning about communicating, accepting each other, getting along with each other, and it's just a really great moment right there, which again solidifies clarifies to Yor, we are more of a nuclear traditional family than I originally thought. And that's amazing, and it helps her to feel way more comfortable with her husband and daughter. And finally, we'll get to my last example right here. Again, there are so many different examples that we could pull out of the anime and manga, but I'm going to wrap up with this one right here. So in the most recent arc of the manga, and yes, these might be some heavy spoilers for some people, but anyways, Yor is out with her friends talking about their family lives and everything, and she hears from her coworkers that it's okay for women to have gripes about their husbands and their children. So she's like, why don't I have any gripes about Lloyd? I need to find something to gripe about. And so she creates a problem because she's like, I guess I need a problem because that's, again, families can be dysfunctional, and that's totally fine, and I guess as a wife I'm supposed to gripe about something. So she creates something to gripe about, and Lloyd, being a guy who is dedicated to his job but also being a good husband and father, is like, well, I guess there's now this problem that I have to fix. And so this ensues a whole new bloody mission, and by the end of it, Lloyd, as Twilight, has done some things on the mission they probably wouldn't have done, but he does them in order to not make Yor sad, in order to try to patch up whatever problem is there within their marriage. And when he comes back on home, Yor is there to greet him, and she's like, look, I'm sorry for what happened. I thought I was just blending in, being a good wife, but really, like, we don't need to fight. And when we do fight, when we do have gripes, we got to talk it on out. And so they talk it out. They have a moment of healthy communication in which they solve their mutual crisis. And that right there, that is what a healthy marriage looks like, folks. And it's something that is something that we would attach way more to a traditional nuclear family than to the found family trope, especially since, as I said earlier, found family is usually about validation, validation, validation. Oh, if there's an argument, we'll have some sort of conflict, we'll beat it out, and then we're like, okay, man, I understand each other. We understand each other. Validation. But with a traditional family, you can't do that. You must earn those moments. And so that's what we see playing out right here in Spy Family. And again, it's just one of those things where I look at, I'm like, this is not the found family trope. Yes, it is the found family because they fit the prerequisites of it, but the way that they act, the way that they conduct themselves, the way that every character grows is way more along the lines of a traditional nuclear family, which is why I think that this story has so much broad appeal to people. Because yes, it has those smackings of the found family trope, which a lot of people do enjoy, but a lot of people do enjoy their actual families. They absolutely do. That is the norm. That's the reason why we call it the social norm. And so this is a story that actually appeals to both sides and brings everyone together to show what a good, proper, happy family can be. And that's a family that isn't devoid of problems. In fact, they have loads of issues. But it's how they handle those issues together that makes them such a fantastic unit, makes you root for them. It makes you appreciate all of the fluffy goodness because there's so much to it. And yeah, I guess that this is another example, but let me just throw out the pictures right here. Some upcoming stuff for the next season, which is going to be phenomenal. When the Forger family finally manages to enjoy a family outing together. And it's a proper family vacation with all of the ups and downs that come with it. And it's right then that you realize that if you didn't know who these characters were, you would have no reason to suspect that this wasn't a traditional nuclear family, which again goes against the found family trope, where it's very obvious that these people are not related and that they've come together and have formed these fantastic bonds. But Spy Family does it differently. It takes the found family setup and then flips it on its head to create a traditional nuclear family. And by doing that, the story then appeals to so many more people. It brings everyone in and shows us what a family could and should be like. Yes, there's all of these fantastical elements to it. Yes, there's the Cold War happening in the background with some really messed up stuff. There's a lot of really bloody action that happens in Spy Family, and yet we don't come to it for the bloody action. We come to it for the wholesomeness. And why is that? It's because the Forger family is the family that many of us wish we could actually have. And it might just be the family that we really do have. And that's another reason why people love it so much, is because they're like, I see myself in Anya. I see myself in Yor. I see myself in Lloyd. I might see myself in Bond. And that is the way that my family is. Dysfunctional, crazy, loving, fun. And if you can write a family like that, that's way more popular than anyone in Hollywood is willing to admit. Because at the end of the day, most people do love their families, found or blood related. People want to see their own family life represented in a fun way. And that is what Spy Family does. That's why the presentation of a nuclear traditional family works so well. Well, I've kind of waffled on long enough right here. I did not expect this video to run on for nearly half an hour. Woo! But here we are. There's just so much to say. And again, I've only skimmed through some of the big moments within the anime and manga. And I want to hear from you guys in the comments. What are the other moments of Spy Family that really show what a family could and should be? What are some of your best Forger Family moments? Or your favorite Forger Family moments, I should say. I want to hear you guys list them off in the comments below, and let's have a discussion. In the meantime, if you would like to support what we do here at Camille's Harem, then please like, share out this video, subscribe, but even better yet, check out the books that we've published. Links for them are in the description below. And guys, thank you so much for joining us on this incredible adventure that we call writing. And until the next video, y'all, choose.
を侮辱したのはどっちだ